With Rocket League going free to play recently, there has been an influx of new players, and with new players comes new questions. So to combat some of these questions, here are 3 things I wish I had known when I started playing back in 2015. These tips are intended for beginners, but players of all skill levels may find them useful. This might seem obvious to some, but when I first started playing, I never warmed up before games. I would just jump straight into ranked and let my first games on be my warm-up. This led to me having a 50-50 chance of playing well those first few games until I actually warmed up to my normal play. I did this for years and thought nothing of it, but once I started spending 15 to 30 minutes in free play, those first few games were a lot less awkward and frustrating. When warming up, try to spend a little bit of time practicing specific things. Whatever those things are is up to you, but try not to mindlessly drive around and just hit the ball. If a certain mechanic is off for you, but you don't realize it in training, you will find out about it in ranked, so testing out everything you know before you play will ensure you won't mess those shots or saves up in real games. If you're on the Steam version of Rocket League, you can take advantage of the workshop maps if you want something other than just free play. Some of the maps I use are the dribbling course and ring map. These maps are really great for warming up your dribbling and aerial car control. Steam users can also use Bacchus mod to give them advanced control over free play and many other things. This is how I am making the ball move around in free play. I'll put a link to the Bacchus mod website in the description. For those on console or the Epic version, I recommend using the custom trainings if you want to mix it up a bit. There are a ton of codes out there for training certain mechanics or shots, so you'll never run out of things to do. Some of these trainings might be awkward at first, but that's a good thing. If you train out the awkwardness in free play or custom maps, you won't feel it in ranked. Training isn't just limited to before you play ranked either. If you find yourself struggling to do things you normally can, take a break for a bit and practice that in free play. Once you get back to ranked, you'll be back to your normal self. There are a lot of settings that you can change in Rocket League, and that has its pros and cons. Some of the key ones that I recommend messing around with are your camera and video settings. These two are going to alter the way your game will look and handle the most. These settings are subjective, but there are some things I would do to them to ensure you aren't at a disadvantage. Turning off camera shake is a must if you want to have accurate shots. I would also try to keep your distance somewhat close but not too close. If you're too far away from your car, your accuracy will suffer, but if you are too close to your car, you won't be able to see your team or the opponents. Try and find a nice middle ground and stick with it. I have played with people over the years that like to alter their settings almost every game, and they usually play a lot worse for it. If you have to change your camera settings slightly here and there, that won't be an issue, but if you're changing multiple settings often, you won't have time to build muscle memory with any of them, and you will always be in a state of learning to play with the new settings. Every now and then, it could be a good thing to do a complete rehaul of your settings if you feel like you need to, but try and find some that you're comfortable with and stick with them. If you're having a bad day in ranked, it's most likely not the settings causing the problems. This is another thing that might seem obvious to some people, but never came naturally to me. I would see videos of freestylers and pros hitting crazy shots and thought that I would have to learn how to do those things before I could rank up. Little did I know how much mechanics really mean. You don't have to know how to ceiling reset, double stall musty to reach the higher ranks. When starting out, you should be learning how to drive around the field and how to make good contact with the ball. Once you learn how to get solid touches on the ball, you'll want to start practicing solid rotations and learning how to play with the team. If you solo queue a lot, you're going to have to learn how to adapt to new players each game, but if you have a solid team to play with, try and learn how they like to play and things they like to do and play off of them. Team plays are always going to be a good way to score. On the other side of this tip, it's not a bad idea to start implementing tougher shots as you become more familiar with the fundamentals. Try and stick with mechanics that are realistic for your skill level. Some mechanics are definitely harder than others, and those really tough ones often start to click once you put some time in the game. But don't worry if it takes time before you start hitting those flashy goals. As long as you're winning, who really cares? Hopefully these tips help some newer people, and maybe even a few of you that have been around for a bit. These tips aren't the only things that you can do to improve, but they are a good starting point for anyone looking to get better. If there's anything that you would like me to cover in a future video, just let me know. I would be more than happy making more videos similar to this one, and thanks for sticking around if you made it this long.